Hello, welcome to Muthu Integrative. My name is Dr. Muthu. Welcome to my YouTube channel. You may be seeing me today for one of two reasons. One is usually asthma or COPD. These are the two most common conditions that patients see me for. However, there are other conditions similar to asthma and COPD that also have similar symptoms such as mucus, either in the chest or in the nose, shortness of breath, fatigue, tiredness during the day, and so on. Some people also have chest pains, and I make sure that they also see the heart doctor. You will get a comprehensive assessment of your symptoms, not just respecting to the lungs, but also I generally try to see the entire body as one, and I'm going to tell you a story behind that. Do you know what was the first real organ that was actually formed when you were a fetus in the mother's womb? Imagine just like a stem of a plant and the roots and the flowers. That's how each of our organs are with respect to the gut. So guess what? If your lungs or if your heart or if your brain or nerves or joints are unhappy, guess who's unhappy? The gut. What is the gut? Gut includes the stomach, the intestines, the colon, and so on, even the liver and the spleen. So what I'm trying to say is the fact that you have complaints in your lungs or your heart actually goes back down to understanding what's going on in your gut. Why is your gut unhappy? Let's see that today. Who lives in the gut? Well, we have 35 trillion species of friendly bacteria and fungus. In fact, guess what? This is almost the same number of species of bacteria and fungi that the entire universe has. So we are nothing but a micro manifestation of this entire universe, right? And therefore, we have to keep these guys very happy. And once we make these guys happy in the gut, they make all the other organs happy. Make sense? These guys, the gut bacteria, they listen only to the sun and the moon, not to the whims and fancies of your own clock. That's why I have this clock here. The biological clock is what I'm going to talk about today. And the time that the sun rises, the sun goes on top and the sun sets, that is what these guys listen to. So therefore, if from 10 o'clock in the morning to 12 noon is the time when the sun is on top, that actually means the fire in our digestive system is on top. And therefore, these guys are waiting for lunch. And therefore, if you do not feed these guys at the right time, that will be an example of making the gut bacteria very unhappy. Now, one of you might say, well, I have childhood asthma. I was asthmatic since I was born, so you can't explain that. No, I got you covered. Every generation actually transfers these genes from the mother and the father to the baby and so on. And asthma or COPD or inflammation actually passes on from generation to generation because of all the actions and the insults and the stress and the disrespect to the biological clock that our parents and ancestors have done or gone through. But these insults are like a tag on a shirt. You can just pluck them out. Yes, If you do the right things during your lifetime and listen to the biological clock and make these guys happy, they are going to help remove these negative tags on the gene. So even if your asthma is genetic, you can control or you can make your asthma much better by closely paying attention to the biological clock. Make sense? Okay. Now, what are the things that make these guys unhappy other than the biological clock? The body type that you are made of is very important. And we need to understand, and I want you to learn from today on Google search and all the resources that I'm going to share, what body type are you belonging to? For example, Greek medicine, Hippocrates, divides that into 4 types: choleric, sanguine, phlegmatic, and melancholic. Similarly, Indian and Ayurvedic traditional medicine, for example, deals with as air and space, fire and water, and earth and water. And if you can relate to the earth and water for a second, let me talk about that. Asthma, allergies, metabolic syndrome, thyroid disease, gallbladder stones or gallbladder disease, and such package of diseases actually come under the common disorders that are seen whenever the earth element is affected. So usually body types, people with body types that are more earth driven, for instance, are choleric and phlegmatic, they are prone to certain kinds of diseases. And why is that happening? Because the digestion is one of the most important things for your lungs. You must be wondering, what's this guy talking about? He's a lung doctor and he's telling me about digestion, and he's saying that's what's causing my asthma to flare up. Yes, believe me or not. Go to Google search right now and you will see lung inflammation originating in the gut. Look that up. There is tons of research that show that the quality of the digestive fire that you have and that you can cultivate actually runs the show whether you have inflammation or not. An analogy would be that have a firewood place, okay, and you put a pot and put some soup and you're trying to cook this soup. And you are going to throw a bucket of ice or a damp bucket full of sand or mud. There is no fire, you can't cook the food, right? Similarly, when you are driven by earth elements or cool elements, then those 2 elements actually affect the quality of the fire, the digestive fire in your body, and therefore you think you are what you eat. That's where you got it wrong. You are what you digest. You may eat the most healthy of the foods, but if you don't digest it well, it's as good as not eating at all. And this is proven. I am talking all from evidence-based medicine. Okay? So therefore, you may ask me, okay, what makes you think that I'm not digesting well? Well, some of the symptoms such as mucus production, feeling very heavy after a meal, or fatigue, classic symptoms of the fact that you are not able to digest the food. Because what is the source of energy? Some people tell me I have low energy when they come to my clinic. That's because the source of energy is coming from the food only when you metabolize it, only when you burn it, not just because you ate the food, right? So what can we do to digest the food better? Well, for that, you need to understand what body type you are, and you have to choose the foods according to the rule of opposites. If you are on the earth element, for example, people who have sluggish digestion, classically these guys can easily skip meals and they'll be totally fine. Those kinds of people are naturally inclined towards sweet, salty, and sour foods, okay? These foods are not the best for your body type. And guess what? I bet you that these are the foods that you love. And that's natural, expected, because you are sweet, you are down to earth. That's what earth element is all about. You are down to earth, generous, loving, you love to give things, you are very stable, calm. And those people are classic for the earth phenotype, and they love sweet, salt, and sour foods, but you can eat them. I'm not going to take them away from you, but find the right time to eat. And when would that be? Lunch. Why? Because that's when the fire is on top, right? So when the fire is on the top, the digestive fire, that's when you eat the heaviest of the foods, which comes under these categories: sweet foods, pasta, carbohydrates, etc. Whereas people who are on the thinner side, who are more of air elements or a drier side, they are better off eating sweet, salt, and sour foods. So the same food that is good for me may not be good for you. Again, at the right time. So the best time for you to eat sweet, salt, and sour foods is at lunch, not at dinner. Because the kitchen is shutting down. This kitchen right here. Because when the sun sets, the fire is coming down, the environment actually literally manifests in us in the form of these 5 elements. So don't separate yourselves from the environment. You and the universe is one, right? And therefore, the lighter foods, which is, remember this mnemonic, BPA, bitter, pungent, and astringent. These foods are the best during the evening times. So something that is warm, hotter, or spicier is better during the evening time rather than lunchtime. And guess why? Because if you have acid reflux, some people say, oh, I cannot tolerate ginger, etc. That should be eaten more towards dinner time because the outside is cool, and therefore you have to make sure you follow the rule of opposites. When outside is cool, you eat things that are hot and warming. When it's outside, it's warm during lunch time, then you are okay eating things that are sweeter and that are cooling in nature. For example, salads, if at all you want to eat them, the best time is the lunchtime. So let me cut it short, right? So food is just one aspect of this, but there is much more. And for that, I would like to refer you to my simple terminology: move, digest, and rest. Keep doing these 3 things in cycles, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. If you are going to tell me that I'm short of breath, I cannot move, I understand you. And for that, I'm going to give you a trick today. Have a trampoline, okay? The one that kids jump on. All that you're supposed to do is literally stand on the trampoline and just gently bounce with your feet on it, just gentle jumping. This way, your body, each cell in your body actually vibrates. And it thinks that it's actually moving crazy, but it's really not moving crazy. And this actually is shown to be equivalent to more hours of running and other forms of metabolism. So that is one simple trick that you can follow. Getting a stationary bike is very good. Whenever you play on your cell phone games, like apps games, try to see if you can use a pedal bike and keep playing. I'm not going to take the things that you love away from you. If you are watching TV, keep moving and generate heat. And that's one thing I want to tell you. Some people say, I cannot feel hungry. I don't feel hungry. I want to skip this meal. Guess what? Create warmth in your body and you will feel hungry, because once the fire is activated, that's when you get hungry and automatically you can feed. Because if you do not feed yourself at lunchtime just because you're not hungry, that flame, that little bit of flame that is there is not being used. And that flame, we are starting to understand, is actually slowly leading to inflammation. So your gut microbiome, they are looking for food at the right time. Similarly, bedtime is very crucial, right? So such things actually come to play when you are trying to understand, why am I having mucus? Slowly, we are actually starting to understand that mucus might actually be one of the avenues where the body is actually trying to eliminate toxins. Because the food that is undigested actually has to be taken care of, right? How does the body do that? If it cannot eliminate through the stools or the urine, it starts actually storing these undigested food particles in the adipose tissue and slowly fatty liver, and also starts clogging the lymphatic channels. We know this by evidence-based medicine that people who have metabolic syndrome, asthma, are also at risk for clogging of these blood vessels. Similarly, the nasal passages are clogged because these heavy foods that are really hard to digest, they do stay in the body. And imagine you're leaving a food tray in the corner, it starts rotting like that. That creates inflammation in the body and manifests as shortness of breath, bronchospasms, low energy, mucus, and so on. This is the start to my clinic. We call this as lifestyle medicine, okay? My YouTube channel is called Muthu Integrative Lifestyle Medicine, and I follow important mentors in the field such as Dean Ornish, who has started the Dean Ornish program in 1988 and is going amazing. There are other mentors that are, have trained me. I'm certifying myself in the American Board of Lifestyle Medicine, right? And so this is all evidence-based medicine, and I want you to consider understanding your body type and the biological clock, and try to tweak certain things that you're doing in your daily life, and you will be in a much better place. Of course, I'm going to give you the best of the inhalers today. Try to see if I can change around some inhalers in your regimen. And these days we have shots, once a month shots. If your IgE level or your eosinophils that cause asthma are high, I will look very closely into your home environment. Are there any things in your home or in your habits that can slightly be tweaked, and so on. And I have a separate video for people who have had cigarette smoking in history in their life, or have been around cigarette smokers, or been part of the coal industry, etc. And for them, all I am going to say is that smoking or these exposures only account for a part of the problem. And that's why I call it as the second hit theory. The smoking or the coal exposure or the stress may be just one part of the problem. The second part, the second hit that actually makes you manifest asthma or COPD is nothing but the biological clock, the disrespect that you gave to your life. For example, many people love just postponing lunch because they need to get things completed in their professional life, and they just work through lunch sometimes, right? And that may make you feel validated because you're completing a task, your employees, your employer is happy, or somebody who you are helping is happy, and you feel good. But then it's the worst thing that you can do to your friendly bacteria, because they have memory, and this memory, this bad memory, accumulates over time until it actually manifests as hypertension, sleep apnea, diabetes, coronary artery disease, and so on, okay? So you don't need to think that asthma is separate from hypertension separately from sleep apnea, and so on. These are all coming from the same bucket. These are all different flowers coming from the same stem. So if one of these flowers is unhappy, guess who's unhappy? The gut is unhappy, okay? Welcome to Muthu Integrative. I will see you in the next video, and I will see you shortly either in my clinic, or I'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you.